This episode of the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast is brought to you by Patreon and the Gentleman Scofflaw merchandise page. Go to gentlemanscofflaw.com. In the menu, click the support or shop links to help support the show.
You are listening to the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast. Listener beware.
Rise and shine, the liquor store is open. I ain't got time for moping. I best be on my way. Well, I still got time to save my reputation. Time to go day drinking in this dirty little town.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Crowder. With me in person, as always, is the Don, Donovan Fowler, and all the way up in the great white north is Johnny Boy. How you doing?
What's up?
What's up? That's a throwback.
It is a throwback.
It's kind of a weird podcast today because I've still got my normal kind of allergy stuffiness, but you guys are both sick, and I'm the only one that's. If I knew you were sick, I would have just
If you
knew you were sick, I would have canceled this thing.
I'm not that sick. I'm just I feel like I was sick like a week ago, and then I feel like yesterday it felt like a pile of bricks coming down on me. I collapsed under the weight.
I know how that goes.
It sure does.
Let's start off with a little bit of housekeeping, and then we'll get things going. I am drinking the leftover of my KBC pumpkin ale.
'Tis still the season.
Leftover from Halloween. It's been sitting in.
You can drink that stuff all up until Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Can I drink it after Thanksgiving?
I don't know. You might want to move on to something a little bit more seasonal.
I miss from
lazy.
Texas is Shiner Cheer. It's like a Christmas kind of
I think I
lager.
remember you told me about that.
Dunkelweizen.
You know what the number one thing that bothers me about beer is you can't age it.
That's true.
You
gets
you can't hang on. If you have a really nice bottle, you can't buy a case and hang on to them for 20 years.
It's true. And if you leave them out in the light, you're screwed. Like in the sunlight or on the back porch. All right, and I am smoking. This is leftover, also from Halloween. From my Halloween costume is my 5-star General MacArthur pipe. And it is ridiculous and huge and quite the novelty, but it actually smokes really well.
Yeah.
It's like the combination of like the size of a tobacco chamber, the length of the stem just makes like a huge billowy smoke. So I don't know.
It looks pretty badass altogether.
I did notice something while being sick. I've gotten to that point where I have the old man cough, where instead of a it's like a.
I'm more of like the wheezing, like like that sort of. I can't tell whether he's dying of cancer and laughing or just has a really bad cold.
It's at least a youthful wheeze.
Yeah. What is it about old people that could be so gross? Am I being ageist right now? Is that what's going on?
Everything's falling
slowly,
apart.
It's just.
Oh yes, and I forgot. Later on the show, we're having Joel Scribner, speaker. I don't know the ranks of Taekwondo, but he's like high level, competitive, full contact, like Taekwondo, several championships, black belt.
The only rank we need to know is he could probably kick all our asses
kill you
consecutively.
And he's the author of a book called WINology. So,
well, the thing about Taekwondo is instead of having belts of color, it's belts of different substance. So you start off with, I think it's a cotton belt, and if he's at the top, I think he's probably at barbed wire.
I don't think that's how it works, John.
Stop
I think
spreading
so.
fake news.
Barbed wire.
I saw it
What are
somewhere.
you drinking, John?
Yeah, what do you got
Juice. I have juice.
Juice.
there? That doesn't look like juice to me. That's the most amber looking glass juice bottle I've ever seen.
It's orange juice.
How are they packaging things in Canada?
Is that what you do at work too? You're like, it's coffee. It's coffee, I swear.
It's
right.
apple juice. Just a little bit of apple juice after lunch.
What are things going on in your weeks? Well, I don't know what I said, but how are things going on in your weeks?
You may not be sick, but you're clearly not right in the head.
I'm not in the right head right now.
If I knew about that and your choice of words, sir.
I've had a really stressful few days, and I'll tell you why. I don't know if people down south know about this, but in Canada, in November, we have something called Remembrance Day. It's kind of like Veterans Day.
Oh, yeah, the poppy.
Yeah, so the poppy thing, you wear a poppy because it symbolizes Flanders Field, where a bunch of soldiers were buried after World War I and such.
Great poem about that.
So I bought a poppy at the grocery store the other day. I had it on my shirt. I didn't realize when I took it off and threw it in the wash that I left the poppy on.
Ooh.
It did its cycle. I started pulling my stuff out. I found the red part of the poppy, but I can't find the pin.
Oh no.
It's been days, and I've checked the trap in the washing machine. I've felt through all the laundry to make sure it's not hanging out in there. It's gonna pop out and get me in the eye one day.
That's
at
like,
least expect it.
That's like today. I was cleaning my room and I was sorting through laundry, and sure enough, I throw a shirt onto the pile, and I see a little black creature climb up from the depths and go all around, and it's clearly some sort of a spider. It's got 8 legs.
Clearly.
And I couldn't find it. Like I shook out everything, couldn't find it, and then I was like, this thing and I are gonna have one hell of a time living together. I'm gonna encounter it one night in my sleep.
That's the worst thing is trying to kill a spider and losing it because you pissed it off.
Yeah.
You've lost it, and usually it almost always happens when it's time to go to bed.
Well, and I probably killed this spider's mother at one point within the last 48 hours because there was a larger spider in my room, and so now it's probably got a vendetta against me.
You do realize if a spider has a kid in your room, there'll be like thousands of them.
Oh yeah,
little kids everywhere.
Oh yeah. I'm just a little bit of gasoline and a match. That'll solve that problem.
It's funny that you mentioned though the poppy thing, because that's a tradition that I miss from Canada that they don't do that in the States, and I think it's a really neat tradition that we should do here.
It doesn't really, but see the thing about it being here is that because we weren't so involved in World War I think is why we don't take it so. But then again, in the World War I museum, to your point, in Kansas City, they have a fake field of poppies there. Yeah. So I think you're right. I think it would be nice if we had the poppies.
I think they just use it as a symbol for all people that have passed in all wars.
Yeah,
if it makes you feel any better, I purchased my poppy with a crisp American $5 bill. So you're welcome.
Do they take American currency in Quebec now?
She looked at it and she said, "Oh, that'll be fine." I was like, all right, well, it's worth more than whatever we got, so it better be fine.
That'll be fine. Thanks for your donation.
That'll do, Canadian. That'll do.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we've got Veterans Day coming up next week, and we've actually got a good little show planned for that. So it'll be fun.
To quote Jason McCarthy, we gotta get some good living going. We gotta live it up for all those guys who gave it for freedom.
So have you guys been seeing this stuff about Kevin Spacey?
Oh yeah. I mean,
is anybody surprised?
Well,
that's what my mom said.
Well, it's kind of been like an ongoing hidden Hollywood secret for years that people know that he's in the closet, but I mean the pedophilia stuff, that's just, I don't know.
Well, and some people I've encountered people who have almost
holy crap.
What?
That's a lot. That's a lot of. Okay, for our listeners who can't see this, we have a little bottle of this.
You're pulling the curtain.
This Breathe Easy essential oil that you just put like a drop in your hand and cup it over your mouth, and I just watched.
You know what it smells like?
What
does it smell like? It reminds me of those days that I used to do yard work with Diesel And like I would get it, like I just some people
Stings
like
the nostrils.
yeah. Sex Panther. Am I right? It works 70% of the time, every time. But no, it just reminds me of those good old days. Some people like the smell of gasoline. I am one of those people.
I am too.
And it just, I don't know, it clears you out. Anyways,
that stuff is good though. Like I started using those essential oils for my allergies about a year ago, and they help out a lot. Like especially when you're at the house. And now I just started a lot, like about 2 weeks ago, carrying a bottle around with me like that. And whenever I'm having issues, it helps.
To be clear to our audience, we're not trying to sell you essential oils. No. This happened purely by accident. And whatever the hell you were talking about.
If you want to click the link in the show notes.
What was that? Lathe or lathe?
I got a deal for you
that we were talking about last episode. Lathe.
Yeah. Where John kept talking about the lathe.
Yeah, the lathe. Okay. If you get yourself a lathe,
it's all subliminal messaging.
The wooden cereal bowls, they'll be.
Wait, back to Kevin Spacey. I've had some people who recently have been trying to excuse away the pedophilia story as like
because they like him.
Yeah, well,
because Kevin Spacey's kind of a likable guy.
He is,
and people don't want to admit that.
That's a good point. You don't want to his whole career. Like I was even thinking to myself, I was like, gosh, like Kevin Spacey by far wasn't one of my favorite actors, but he had so many good movies that I loved, Glengarry Glen Ross and LA Confidential. He did have some
Fred
great
Claus.
Was he in Fred Claus?
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Nobody knows Fred Claus. It came on the tail end of all those Christmas movies that were
good one.
I don't doubt it, but I feel like Elf stole its thunder or something.
Yeah,
but
it's no Home Alone, I'll tell you that.
Or Santa Claus.
Or It's
Santa
a Wonderful
Claus
Life.
3, The Escape Clause. How about that?
Escape
What a
Clause.
great title. Anyways, bottom line is you're right. But I think some people are also I don't know. It's a weird sort of denial where they try to make it sound like, oh yeah, this sounds like a one-time thing. And you're sort of when you look at the picture of Anthony Rapp as a child, you're like, yeah, that's a child. There's no way anybody.
You're trying to justify it. Wait, what did he look like?
As much alcohol.
Did he look like an adult male?
No. I mean, this was an article that was talking about this. How people are trying to explain away, almost saying oh, he probably looked older than he was, and all this stuff. And I was like, no amount of alcohol in the world is going to make you think that's a 18-year-old. He looks like a 10-year-old in the picture. Yeah. But on top of that, it's the same. I mean, we've talked about Roman Polanski on this podcast. It's the same sort of thing that people pull with the whole Roman Polanski case, and that people have been pulling for a long time. And it's the problem is that now it's they have to own up to the fact that that their whole protectionism around these people is complete. I mean, pardon my French Canadian bull. And people like Meryl Streep actually have to own up to the fact that they've been protecting pedophiles.
Yeah, it's
One
true.
of my favorite things about Kevin Spacey throughout the years was you'd never hear about him unless it was about the project. And I loved that because you were able to, separate the actor from the art. And
so much
I found that really refreshing.
So much so that people often speculated it was one of two things that you heard about Kevin Spacey was that he was either gay or Republican.
Or nothing at all.
It was just it was so funny because when I'd hear people say yeah, I hear Kevin Spacey, he's actually a Republican, and I'm sort of really? Where are you getting that? I feel it is the Loch Ness monster of just because it's under the surface, it's there's so much mystery, that you could attribute to it. It's so funny. But you were even saying Elijah Wood, who was also child star. He was even coming out with stuff about how there was. I mean, basically, he was alluding to that there's a culture of pedophilia in the entertainment industry that is protected. And I've heard this, from accounts that aren't just conspiracy theorists. It does seem like it would be a place where something like that would thrive. And
what does that say though about an industry that people it means the industry cultivates this whole culture of people that put the moving forward at the top of their priority. and then they act like when this stuff comes out, they act like it's a shock, or like we need to change the industry. Yet these people are perpetuating this all the time. It's like whatever it takes to move forward, step on whoever you need to get to the top. And they wonder why middle America or the rest of the country looks to Hollywood as like this just bastion of all things immoral. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I've always held that the industry, and this is something that's sort of concerned me lately. And I mean, I'm not in the industry, like I'm on the fringe of the industry at best.
Yeah, me too.
But I do feel like it's a very unprofessional place in many regards. I mean, there are people who work very hard in the film industry, but like it's pretty unprofessional and it's very unethical. Yeah. And it does like I feel like the house that's now burning down around Hollywood's ears is the culture that they built for themselves. Yeah. And even, I mean, Hugh Hefner passing away around this time. I mean, it's like you can't really have your cake and eat it too. Like, like they kind of spread this myth of, I don't know. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is that like the culture that they built up in which, I don't even know if I want to get into this. I'm starting to get off into more idealized forms.
Well, I mean, I'll say this, right? Okay, the industry is up in arms about our president, right? They don't. It's very liberal, and I mean, I've said it on the show. I'm not a big fan of him. I think that most people can have a rational reason and still not be a fan of him because of who he is as a person.
I mean, he's not. It's not dear leader.
No, so he's not dear leader.
It's America. We can disagree with whoever.
But he is a product of this industry.
Yeah,
he is their ideals.
Yeah, I suppose
as the world leader, and it's like a lot of them don't see that irony.
I mean, that is something. Yeah, I mean, that is like, I mean, he is like an entertainment icon, and the fact that, I don't know, it's just, the hypocrisy of like everybody coming out and slamming Trump over what, I mean, obviously, like if what he said on that audio tape was true or was alluding to real events, then that's like pretty despicable, and it's terrible character and borderline also illegal depending on the circumstances. However,
it's always illegal.
However, well, I mean, well, let's not get into that. I'm not gonna. I got myself into like a weird place there where I wanted to discuss that, and I'm not even gonna go there. But the point being that like. It doesn't it just seem like the tamest. It does really seem like locker room talk at this point when you look at the stuff that people who were criticizing him, aka Harvey Weinstein and a lot of his supporters and people who have been brought down lately, have been dragged in for.
I don't know. It's true.
Honestly, I'm all for kicking back and kind of watching the house burn down at this point because I mean, like I said this to somebody at a Halloween party. I was like, because they were trying to make it sound like, I don't know. It's like, I feel like being a man in the industry now, it's like they try to like kind of pin it on you. But I just said, no, I love women and I hate rapists. So we're all on the same, we're all on the same train here.
Same page here.
Yeah, seriously. Anyways.
While we're on the subject, I watched Hollow Man with Kevin Bacon as my Halloween choice.
Is it because we wait, weren't we trying to figure something out last episode?
Yeah, we were trying to figure out Flatliners.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, okay.
There you go. Yes, I guess that was in my subconscious, so I threw in Hollow Man. And the very first thing he does when he turns into Invisible Man,
he rapes somebody.
Is terrible thing.
Yeah. I think they may have cut that scene though, where he rapes somebody, but
they don't in the version I saw anyway. Yeah. They don't really show anything. It's more alluded to, but you know what he's been doing.
I mean, like when I was a kid, my dad rented The Invisible Man with Claude Rains for me, and it was pretty scary. Like even then, like that old movie where he's like, I remember he like ties a guy up in a car and he like sends the car like down a cliff or something. And it was just horrifying. But that's why if you ask somebody if you had a superpower, what would it be? If they say invisibility, then they're supposed to be a sociopath. Because basically or rather, I think it's something to do with antisocial tendencies. I'll dumb it down a little bit, but I think there is a point to it where it's like if you say invisibility, the whole reason that you would want invisibility typically is to do things without people seeing you or see people without them seeing you. It's
like the internet, right? It's like that's basically the invisible man. That's why all the comments section on everything, including this podcast.
I see where this is going.
Horrible things.
Yes, the comments. It is a bastion of. It's a swamp.
Have you guys watched the latest Stranger Things yet?
I have indeed.
Halfway through it.
I'm halfway through too.
Ooh, really? Yeah. What episode are you on?
I just finished 4.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess you are technically halfway through. I think I'm moving into 6 or 7.
Oh, well, you're getting towards the finish line.
Along. I'll be really interested to hear what you think of, I think it's the next episode after 4.
Really? Well, I don't know. I guess this isn't very interesting. Nobody's watched it. They're like,
did you see this?
We don't want to. Obviously, we don't want to spoil anything for anybody. I would hate for that to happen.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, so far, I guess just speaking generally, I think it's doing a pretty great job. I mean, I think it's keeping characters going. At this midpoint that I'm at, I'm starting to question some of their decisions. But then the whole thing that I typically go back to with Stranger Things is that like it's all such a what in film school we'd call it like a pastiche. A pastiche. It's like all just such a collage of 80s references and everything. And they do certain things well, but at the end of the day, it's like it's kind of cheap entertainment.
I will say the first episode to me in this series of this second season was a little cutesy. Just like in the way it was edited and the way it was kind of set up, like it was definitely tongue in cheek and self-aware. But I was like, if this whole season's going to be like this, I'm not going to be a fan. It wasn't. It was only like the first opening of the episode. I don't know. What did you think, John?
Yeah, thumbs up or thumbs down.
The season definitely started slowly, but I liked that because you got to kind of relax back into the era, which I find is the most appealing thing of the show is the aesthetic of it.
Yeah, like the atmosphere of it and everything.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and I feel like we ended up watching the first season before going back or going into the new season, and I do think that as great as the show is, it's not as great with a repeated viewing because it feels like everything that's happening and you realize, oh, this whole thing could be a good 2 hour and 30-minute movie.
Did I misuse the word aesthetic?
No, you're right.
Okay.
Let's consult.
I wasn't sure if you're correcting me or
not. Well, here's a question. So you having rewatched, because honestly, I was starting to rewatch the first season, and I agree with you. It didn't hold much interest for me to rewatch it, but
because you know that what's coming, and then it feels slow to you. At least to me, I don't know.
Yeah. And honestly, I feel like the payoff of the first season isn't that great. Once when you're in the momentum of it, it doesn't really. Anyways, but one question I have is, in the first season, did they use music? I feel like in the second season, they're using a lot of iconic 80s songs to kind of move the plot forward.
Yeah.
But did they do that in the first season?
They did some of that, yeah. Yeah, there was some stuff by The Clash. And,
The Clash. But it was kind of within the... It was within the
for
show.
The credits and stuff, they closed out with some things. I'm trying to remember what stuff. But yeah, they definitely use a lot of 80s music. For some reason, though, the score in this one makes me think a little bit of Twin Peaks a little bit.
In the second season. I feel like the second season has a bit of Twin Peaks. I also think it has a bit of The Thing, where The Thing, if you listen to the score, it's basically just dum-dum.
Yeah.
Don't.
But it's incredibly effective.
Oh, it is very.
Like
it's
Jaws.
like Ennio Morricone knew exactly what he was. Either that, or he was just like he was like this. This is a very easy way to get a paycheck, which is
Well, how much
exactly
of
how
that was
Ennio
Morricone and how much
would,
of that was actually John Carpenter?
It's
Because I know he did some of his own composing as well.
Well, I don't know. Ennio Morricone, I think, is credited, but I agree with you in that, like, John Carpenter, I think he probably had the concept nailed down. That whole
And the best
heartbeat.
thing of Stranger Things, Paul Reiser.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I was really happy to see it. I knew he was going to be in because I listened to his interview on the Kevin Pollak show. Actually, you told me to listen to it earlier this summer, and he was talking about getting cast in that and stuff. I was like, oh, yes, this is great. I love Paul Reiser.
Well, and Sean Astin, too.
Sean Astin. Yeah, and his character's great in it. I love his
character's
character.
awesome. I mean, it just reminds you of what a great actor Sean Astin is.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be fair, the guy has had multiple iconic roles from child stardom into adulthood. Like, I feel like he's one of those actors where, like, he had, when he was a kid, it was The Goonies. And then when he was like kind of younger-ish, it was Rudy. And then, and then of course, Lord of the Rings. But.
All right. Now it's time for a little segment we like to call
Listener Mail.
All right. This is the segment of the show where we interact with you, the listener, and you can interact with us on social media. All the social media platforms. We got the Facebook, the Instagram, the Twitters. And most importantly, leaving iTunes leaving iTunes reviews not only gives us something to read and talk about on the show, but it also helps with our search ranking and it's showing up in the iTunes store. So go to the website, click the iTunes link, and leave a review if you like the show. Also, you can leave a voicemail by calling Man81Scoff for a chance to be featured on the show.
And you can leave a review if you don't like the show. Those are entertaining as well.
We're fine with the negative reviews. We've read negative reviews.
We love the critics.
Yeah, those are our favorite type of reviews.
Nobody likes the Canadian.
Nobody. All right, what does that email say? From this one comes into our email address.
Okay, this one's from Jeffrey Shaw.
Okay.
It's actually Jeff Shaw, but I took some liberties there.
Why'd you do that?
He says, hey guys, love the show. It's refreshing to hear a podcast talk about the important things in life. I have a questions for the pipe smokers on the podcast. Sorry, John. I actually have a pipe or two. I just don't use it. He says, I'm a new pipe smoker and looking to add to my pipe collection. What kind of pipe and flavored tobacco do you recommend for a newbie like me? Thanks, and keep up the great work.
Well, thank you, Jeff. That's a good question. I'll start, and I'll let Donovan give some input too. So you're looking to add a pipe. What I would say, I don't know what pipes you have, but I really do enjoy the corncob pipes, even though I do have a couple briar pipes. I enjoy the corncob pipes because they're so cheap and they smoke really well. So I like the Country Gentleman, which is a really good one. It's like a big bowl and it just looks cool. And you could also, if you order from most online places, you can pick the stem you want. If you pick I forget what it's called, the Danish stem. It's a much wider, more comfortable stem than the stock stem that comes with the Country Gentleman pipe. And you can get it in amber if you like that color. You can kind of customize it to the way you like it. And flavor of tobacco, I'm guessing if you just started, you probably got some Lane 1Q, which is kind of what the house blend is at any tobacco shop. And that's always a great kind of vanilla, kind of, I don't know, like a vanilla bourbon kind of tasting tobacco. And then the other one I would recommend is a lot of people don't like aromatic cherry tobaccos, but there's one blend that I really like. It's called Cult what's it called? Cult is the brand. It's called Blood Red Moon. And some cherry tobacco tastes like cough medicine. This stuff is actually really tasty, and you actually really get the cherry from it. How about you, Donovan? You got any?
I mean, I'd have to agree with you on most of that. I mean, I do love a meerschaum pipe. And obviously the corn cob, I think, is a great place to start for beginners because they're cheap and they're easy to smoke. You're not going to, I feel like they're pretty easy to season too. I feel like you can't really go wrong when you're seasoning
break-in
it.
period, like basically once you smoke it once, it's broken in.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, you've probably already bought yourself a pipe, but one thing that I really went through initially when I was just, you know, starting out was how I kind of wanted the pipe to, like, what I was looking for out of the bite of the pipe, if that makes any sense. Like, some of them have a curvature to them, and that is interesting because it kind of, you know, allows you to I don't know what the point of that is, but, like, you know, ultimately it curves a little bit more. I
typically like a bent pipe. What I like.
Personally, like I really like a straight, I guess, mouthpiece on the pipe so that I can, like, actually put it in my mouth and smoke it, like, for long periods of time without taking it out.
You think that the straight makes you do that more? Like, makes it easier for you to hold? I
just remember, particularly when I used to smoke while I was driving. So, like, I think that may have been the starting of that was, like, I would just bite it, like I would put it in the back of my jaw and I would just sort of puff at it.
It's funny because I feel like the straight ones, it takes more effort to hold it in your mouth because you're holding it up more, like you're clenching it more to hold it up.
Well, it depends. I think, like,
forward
to me, like, it depends on whether you're doing it with the front of your teeth or the back of your teeth, and, like, I would use the back, like, so I would basically just clench down tight on my jaw. But and that's harder to do when it has, like, the curvature on it. And as far as flavored tobacco goes, I definitely like that vanilla sort of rum flavor. And I mean, typically I was doing custom blends. I actually have cut back on my pipe tobacco smoking because I was quitting cigarettes, and I found that was sort of the gateway drug back into the old ciggies. But so I've been doing cigars more and more lately. But however,
more nicotine.
Hey, you're going the wrong way there, Don.
I've explained this to you. I was inhaling with the pipe, and that ain't good. But anyways, point being, I was going to the Tinderbox, which is now closed, unfortunately. So any of the pipe tobacco I would recommend to you would be.
But if you want to go to buy this stuff online, I would say go to Country Squire. If you we've had John David Cole on the show before. They've got a great podcast all about pipe smoking. They've got, like, I think, like, close to 300 episodes or maybe more. I don't know. They go into details about everything about pipes, tobaccos, pipe history. It's insane, and they're just a great business. So go support them. You know, they John David Cole, I think, just ships out all that stuff himself. So they're truly like a small business. So go and support them if you want to get some more stuff. Let's go to listener voicemail here from our listener voicemail number at Man81scoff.
Oh, hi. This is Jessup. Love the show, guys. My question is for Donovan. I heard you're training for the Go Ruck Challenge. That's great. Bunch of sweaty men running in mud. I hope y'all take pictures and videos and post them on the site. I guess my question was, one of the episodes back, you were just talking about your short shorts, sometimes referred to as ranger panties. I just wonder if you're going to wear them. Because, you know, I just think that probably help you on the run, that's all. And, just don't forget to take photos and videos. Okay, thanks, guys. Ta-ta.
Oh, man.
Man, that made me slightly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I don't. Why am I? It seems like I'm drawing out all the crazies here with my Instagram posts and
especially on the listener voicemail.
Boy. Well, thank you, Jessup, for your for your question. To answer it, I suppose I was gonna wear Ranger panties, but now I'm kind of rethinking.
You might want to rethink that.
And pictures and video. We'll probably have a picture or two to post.
Yeah. How's your Go Ruck training going, by the way?
It's been going pretty well, actually. I've been the other day though. Here's the problem. I overloaded my pack because I got frustrated because, like I said, I was sick.
Yeah.
And I went like a week off training and like anyways. So I overloaded my pack and then I ended up tweaking a back muscle, which is never fun.
Oh no.
But that being said, I think I'll probably be back in fighting shape tomorrow. So I gotta really pick up the pace though. That's the thing.
I do too.
I feel like here's the thing. I think we should both keep a steady pace going till Christmas.
Yeah.
And then once we hit the new year, but we have to plan for this. It can't just be some BS New Year's resolution. Once we hit the new year, that's when we really need to start doing the high intensity stuff.
Yeah, they have a whole training schedule.
I
And
feel like-
John's going to
yeah.
join us, actually.
No way, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that would be awesome, man.
Yeah. He's got his plane ticket booked and everything, right?
That's right.
My faith in this is going down by the second. Hey, Canada has to be represented in some way, shape, or
Yeah, we
form.
got to get you.
And I'm not gonna
That's
be
not
wearing
true.
any maple leaves on my
Ranger
ruck.
panties. If you guys want to join us, like I said, I was off for a little while. I was sick too, and I started back, and it's hard when you get started back at the same going back and then thinking you could start with the same weight you did when you were off like a week ago.
Yeah. It's amazing what a week will do.
I know,
to
it's
take you out of
insane.
it. Anybody can join us. Just
Yeah.
maybe Jessup. You just stay where you are.
I don't know. Jessup doesn't sound like the kind of guy that would do a Go Ruck challenge, but
Hey, don't
you
voice.
never know.
Don't voice shame Jessup. Leave him alone.
All right, let's go to a quick break, and we'll be back with Joel Scribner, author of WINology. Scofflaws, I wanted to take a second to talk to you about Patreon. Now, if you've never heard of Patreon, basically it's a platform for creators, for patrons who are fans of a given creator to help support their creations. So we have a Patreon page for the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast. You could support the show for as little as $1 an episode, which is like what? This is just cheaper than a Starbucks coffee, right? So maybe give up one. Why does everyone always do that? They say it's cheaper than a cup of coffee. Okay, what else do you spend $1 on? Maybe it's cheaper than buying Q-tips. Maybe you don't need Q-tips for the month. Maybe this month you avoid Q-tips, right? I don't know. I mean, I hear they're bad for you anyway, but maybe that's not true. I don't. Maybe don't sacrifice anything related to health for the $1 an episode. But Patreon is great because you, the patron, also gets rewards for joining the Patreon. So examples of stuff that we have are extended interviews and outtakes, stuff that gets cut out of the episode that you don't hear for time's sake, because we try to keep a tight, entertaining show, and sometimes there is some gold that doesn't make the final cut. So you get to listen to some of that. Also, you get behind-the-scenes videos, photos, and bonus episodes. For example, we did a bonus episode at the Big Shave West, which was a lot of fun. So more of those type of things are coming, as well as monthly live video hangouts where you can interact with us in person, which is a lot of fun. We've done a couple of free ones to test it out, and it's been a lot of fun. We get to talk with the listeners in real time and get to know them, and they get to ask questions, and it's always a good time. And here's the pièce de résistance is when we hit our goal mark, we are launching a whole new movie review podcast, a Gentleman Scofflaw movie review podcast. Since we're all of us on the show are writers and filmmakers, and that's our background. We love movies. We're going to go through a catalog of what we think are either gentleman or Scofflaw-esque movies. So if you join, you'll get that show as well. Everyone who joins on Patreon at any one of the tiers, even at the $1 an episode, gets a free Gentleman Scofflaw vinyl sticker, which is super cool. It's like a full color sticker. It's really sticky. You could stick it on, anything you want to stick it on. Also, you'll get thanked on the air for your support. So check out patreon.com/gentscofflaw, or you could go to gentlemanscofflaw.com and click the support link on our menu, and it'll take you right there. We look forward to seeing you on Patreon, and thank you for supporting the show. All right, I'm excited to have this guest, a friend of mine, and author of the book WINology, and he's also a team corporate performance coach, among many other things which we'll get into. Joel Scribner, thanks for coming on.
Man, it is my pleasure, Jordan. Thank you so much for having me. Great to be on the show with you.
Yeah. It's funny. You've been texting me about you've been rucking lately, which we've been talking a lot about on this show.
I have. In fact, I'm kind of sore right now. I listened to your show and I checked out the whole rucking thing and thought I would give it a whirl on one of my supposed, low impact days, and then I was sore for my low impact day turned out to not be so low impact. So, yeah, man, I'm enjoying it. I'm up to 35 pounds and do an hour and a half, whatever. Just
nice.
I actually went out and did like a real hike the other day with some terrain and some ups and downs and hills and trails, and it was intense, man. I really enjoyed it.
Wait, where did you find that in Dallas? How did you find that in that area?
There's an Arbor Hills Nature Preserve. They have mountain biking trails, so I go walk on the mountain biking trails and just get a little off-road action.
You get a little bit of extra exercise or mental exercise when you have to dodge the mountain bikers coming down the trail at you.
Yes, or just knock them over.
Yeah.
Either or.
With all that weight on your back,
it's like a special forces dive bombing simulation.
That's right.
A lot of people, our listeners wouldn't know this about you, but you are a former 6-time national, 4-time world combat Taekwondo champ. Let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, let's hear about your background first and how you got started. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Well, I got started in the martial arts. I was 11, and my mom signed me up for a class called Wild Bunch Karate in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. Now, it was 1985, and apparently parents didn't know not to sign your kid up anywhere named Wild Bunch Karate. And our second class, there were 50 kids in a gymnasium, and within 2 classes, we're bare knuckle fighting on a hardwood gym floor.
Holy crap!
And someone kicked my sister, and I don't know how you grew up, but there's a basic rule in Oklahoma that no one kicks our sister except for us. Mm-hmm. I can kick her, but you can't kick her. And so, I asked the instructor if I could fight that guy next. And I don't know if he knew it was my sister and wanted to see what would happen, or he was oblivious to it. But, he told us to make our little fighting positions. And when he said go, I flew at this guy with all the rage my little 11-year-old body had. And I made up a move and I kicked this kid in the face. I mean, literally, I knew nothing. I learned, kick, chop is all I knew after 2 classes. But I kicked this kid in the face and busted his lips, and he's on the ground crying, and the instructor yells, "Stop!" And the whole gymnasium just silent, right? And he walks up and he goes, "That was awesome. You're going to the tournament this weekend." And that was when I realized that I had a natural ability for inflicting bodily harm without feeling any remorse whatsoever. It's a special gift, Jordan, that not many people have, but I have that one.
Gosh, that's crazy.
So that was my competition career was born at 11, and by the time I was 14, I was already winning nationals and working my way up through the ranks, and made the U.S. Taekwondo team for the Global Taekwondo Federation at 19, and then I was on the world stage. Man, had a really fun career doing that, and traveled the world and competed and fought, and then I hit a stage where I really wanted to, move beyond just training people in the martial arts and use those that specific skill set and the psyche of a world-class competitor to help people win in life in all different types of ways. And so I initially moved into the nonprofit sector and worked at my church and did youth ministry and things like that, and kind of developed through working with all the different parts of the congregation and then into the corporate sector. So it's been a lot of fun working with different people, different corporations, and helping teams win and have better synergy and morale and employee engagement, things like that. And just, specifically taking the skill sets, the principles that I developed, becoming a world-class competitor and world champion, and then helping people translate that into their everyday life and literally learn how to attack life and get the most out of it.
To kick life in the lips like you did in that.
Yes, yes.
Kick life.
Sometimes you just have to kick life in the lips.
Great T-shirt idea right there. Let's add that to the list.
And I've got a little. I found a little video of you on YouTube. Kicking a water bottle off a kid's head, and it's insane in slow motion and everything. I'll make sure to link it in the show notes so people could know that you're not making this up.
That seems like
I am not making this up. Yeah, that's an old party trick. Now, when you growing up in Oklahoma, I would go to parties. I was a high school kid. Was already multi-time national champ. So I had all these little party tricks where I would kick beer cans off people's heads and kick cigarettes out of people's mouths. And, it's one of those, fun little things, how you pick up chicks in rural Oklahoma.
And is that when you would like kick out a cigarette out of their mouth and you'd go, "Don't do drugs"?
Yes, that's how my motivational and inspirational career started. It was anti-drinking and smoking gigs at local hotspots.
You're like Mr. T. Eat your greens.
Yeah. No, but for real though, I started going to high schools and doing these anti-drug seminars, and awesome. I had, as I grew in my career, I began to. That's kind of how my speaking career began. As I would go for business, promotions for my martial arts studio. We had about 400 students in Plano, and we had. At any given moment. So we trained thousands of students, but, we would go and do these exhibitions and, U.S. team exhibitions. And we would literally do things like that. Red Ribbon Week, kick drugs out of America kind of stuff. And that was our get into schools, ticket. And all the party tricks from high school when I was doing this stuff. Now I had ammo to talk to teenagers about it as I got a little bit older. So good times.
That's great. It's funny, when I was in high school, I won this competition that was an anti-smoking campaign, and it was
they have anti-smoking competitions.
It was like you did some artwork, and they would use it as a campaign or something. And my artwork was a picture of a donkey with a cigarette in his mouth. And over it had the Ghostbusters, the circle with the line through it, and it said, "Don't be an ass, don't smoke."
That's a fantastic piece of art, Jordan.
Can we get this posted to the Gentleman Scofflaw Instagram?
I wonder if my parents still have it, but it's it got picked by the principal. Like, he actually liked it. I was sure that I was pushing the boundaries or whatever, and it won the competition. And I was like, well, it's not. I'm not swearing. It's it's an ass right there on the poster. He's smoking, and that's not a good thing to do. And I remember some other kids saw mine and just did some totally outlandish, profane poster, and got thrown in detention. And they're like, "You don't understand. Jordan's was a clever play on words. You're just being raunchy." But now I host a podcast where I smoke a pipe. So I kind of went the other way on that.
Full circle.
That's awesome.
I want to know how you transitioned from the kind of martial arts world and working with the youth in your church, and then how do you go into WINology? Let's talk about what WINology is and how that got started and what that transition is.
Sure. It really the whole principle came. I was 14 years old, and again, this is something for 30 years now. I've been really digging into the specific principles that I learned through my martial arts training of how to be a world-class competitor, and then how to translate those into all the different facets of my life. And it literally started with me getting a D in freshman Spanish, and my dad sitting me down and saying, "Joel, come on, you're at that time, national champ, you're a black belt, you know how to win. What's up with this D?" And I'm like, "Dad, it's boring. Spanish is boring. how will I possibly ever need Spanish in my life? That was my mindset, right?
Yeah.
If I'd only known I would live in Texas one day and I could really use a little Spanish from time to time. But at the time I wasn't interested. And I said, Dad, it's boring. I don't want to do it. He's like, well, what is it about the martial arts that you like? You certainly can't like everything. And I said, well, I mean, what do you mean? He goes, well, you don't like the black eyes, because being a shorter guy, 5'7", I was always fighting taller guys, and taller guys hit you first, is how it works. So, and they're punching down on you. So I literally grew up my whole life. Every other week I was like trading black eyes, left eye, right eye, left eye, right. So I literally went to prom with a black eye. I almost got a black eye the 2 days before I got married. When I made the U.S. Taekwondo team in 1993, I literally at the tryouts, I had 2 black eyes. I lived my whole life with black eyes as a shorter fighter. And, I was a middleweight that thought I was a heavyweight. I just had that kind of a, rough and tumble style. But so he's like, certainly you don't like everything. You don't like the black eyes. You don't like, I'm 44 now, Jordan. I can still do the splits like a Russian gymnast, because my instructors pushed me down, popped my hips out of socket when I'm 12 years old. And so now I'm basically just deformed, and I can still do all this stuff. Thankfully, it didn't affect my child bearing abilities, but it was definitely a hostile environment, to say the least.
Yeah.
And he's like, you can't like all of it. What do you like? And I said, I like winning, Dad. I like fighting. I like winning. And he said this, and this is where he trapped me. He's like, well, Joel, wouldn't you consider getting an A in Spanish winning? And I'm like, well, yeah, I guess so. He goes, why can't you just take the same tenacity, discipline, focus, and focus it toward getting that A, mark it up as a trophy, move on, and just get the A and move on and call that a win? And I'm like, well, okay, kind of challenge accepted, right?
Yeah.
And so I went on and I got an A in Spanish the next semester. And it literally just tripped this tripwire that I felt like, man, I can take the same disciplines, skill sets, tenacity, focus, confidence, all of that I'm learning as a competitor, and I can translate it into anything. And so literally this whole WINology concept is something that I have been working on for 30 years. Well, I had developed my 9-step system and had been using it for years in the nonprofit sector, working with lots of different professionals, things like that. And then 3 years ago, I had an invitation to go and help a friend of mine who was the manager of the largest Whole Foods market in all of Dallas, their flagship store. And he said, look, man, my team, they don't know how to think like world-class competitors. Can you come in here and teach my team how to think like a world-class competitor? Because we got Sprouts and Trader Joe's and Central Market and all these other people coming into our space. And I need my managers to have a competition, a competitive mentality, a world-class mentality. And I'm like, absolutely, I can do that. I have a system I've been using and training individuals in for years. I've just never gone in and done it in a team format in corporations before. So I go in there, and I didn't have a name for it at the time, but my first session I'm working on, and it went so well that he had me come back again. And I'm like, man, I got a year's worth of content. I can help your team, exponentially. So he kept having me come back, and like probably the second or third time, I'm like, really what I want to teach you about is this. It's basically the study of winning. It's basically like WINology. And I said it out loud, and I'm like, oh my God, I think I'm onto something. And so I went and I looked it up, and no one had written a book named WINology. Nobody owned the domain name. Nobody had trademarked it. And I'm like, holy cow, I think I got some, I might have an original idea here. So my friend's like, look, man, this is going so well. I need you to take this and give me a product that I can take to corporate and essentially get the okay from corporate to do this, because, I've hired you and you're doing this for me and it's making a massive impact, but I didn't actually ask permission. So can you bring me a product? So all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, I got to write this book. I got to create this product, because now I've got this golden opportunity, which my first principle of WINology is called urgent excellence. And it really comes from an understanding of the word and the principle of diligence in life, which when you look at all of the connotations of the root and the etymology of the word diligence, it literally means to be the most excellent version of yourself in the most expeditious fashion possible. So diligence is more than dotting I's, crossing T's. It's about a sense of urgency and an awareness of the magnitude of the moment, so to speak, and then attempting to become the most excellent version of yourself or the best version of yourself with haste. So urgent excellence is the principle that all of a sudden here I am, and it was in my system, but I'm like, oh my God, I got to do this right now. So I went to work, and literally I had spent years developing the content. Well, when I sat down to write my book, I was so inspired. I literally wrote the book, all 11 chapters within 30 days.
Oh, wow.
And I called my publisher. I'm like, I'm onto something. We got to get this going. And literally I produced the book, had it in print by the end of the year. So that was July. I launched it in that Christmas that year. And I'm off to the races and got approval from the heads of training development at Whole Foods to launch it in the South and pilot it in the Southwest region. Here in the area, and it went so well that I began to pick up all types of other clients and what from major landscaping companies to obviously grocery to whole property management companies and real estate companies and a hospital, all kinds of just crazy. Literally company after company after company, and I would have companies that would increase their revenues by anywhere from 20% to some of them 400% increase in revenues using these principles that are these world-class competitive, competition type principles that I used and built my system. And it was just amazing to me that, the average Joe, no one has ever taught them the psychology of a world-class fighter. It's really hard. Most people have never been in a fight, let alone, spent 30 years of their life training in a psychological, mentality. It's a special person that really enjoys, when someone gives them a nice kick in the face. It's just a different type of mentality. If my friends and I, we train, we fight. Yeah, it's crazy. But if someone can, after 30 years of training, if someone can kick me in the face, well done, my good man. If you can put your foot on my face, that is a feat. And I am happy for you. And I will embrace the pain of that moment because you earned it, good sir. And that's kind of how it's just weird psychology where, when certain people, most people, they lean away from painful moments. They lean away from struggle. They lean away from intense situations. They avoid conflict. But for me, teaching people the psychological profile of how to lean in when other people lean back, how to push forward when other people are pushing away from tough situations. It was just amazing to see the difference and see the abilities that other people could tap into if they could just learn how to think, right? And so the whole idea of WINology is it's the study of world-class top performers from every field, art, science, history, business, whatever, sport. And, people, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what field it's in. It's the same principles. The same principles that help somebody win in Olympic sport are the same principles that help somebody win in computer science. It's about focus. It's about discipline. It's about urgency. It's about positivity. It's about being decisive and taking action. It's all the same principles. And so what I basically found is that if people can grab a hold, because principles are timeless. Yeah. Principles are eternal, so to speak. And so a lot of the stuff that I use, it's attached to my faith. It's connected to ancient principles and things that I've learned growing up. Then I learned how to translate into my combat style and then translate into my, all the other parts of my life that were meaningful. And it's just wild to see if somebody can learn a principle, even though that every business, my idea was I really believed that I could create a system that could go into any corporate setting and create what I call world-class winning culture, world-class performance culture. Inside of organizations where you take regular individuals and you teach them how to think like world-class top competitors, and then they literally go and they apply that into their work and into their sales and into their management style. And there's just something that happens when people have an expectation of excellence and they literally begin to think like world-class competitors, even without actually having the experience of someone that competes on that high level, but they can pick up that psychological profile and then begin to attach it into their own daily life. And it's just amazing what can happen. I had guys, crazy sales guys that had never had been taught how to think like this. And, these are guys that some of them just last month, I even found one of the guys that his initial sales goal was if he could just sell $1,000 a week. Well, next thing you know, if I guess I'm sell 1,000 a day. Now he's working on his sales goal is $15,000 a day. is his goal inside of this company. And he sells landscaping. Wow. So, I mean, he literally has gone to where he's generating, $300,000 of revenue a month for his company. And God, if I could, this guy's an ex-con. This is not an educated guy. This is a dude with a checkered past. He's two bad decisions from going back inside at any given moment. But you give a guy like that some principles, and then he takes the principles and puts them into his process, and he creates a better product in his own life. He's more productive in his life because the principles can fit into any process, and they can help anybody accomplish a better product in their life if they just learn how to take these principles and apply them. Right. So that's kind of the gist of it. And it's a fun read. It's my life story. It's on audiobook as well on my website. But it's definitely helping a lot of people. And it's just been amazing to see something catch on that I've used in my own, when it's your own personal system, your own life story. And now, Jordan, I got yesterday, I finally got back from, I think I sent it to you, right? That I own the entire word WINology. I officially own a word. My attorney said, you don't just own a word, you invented a word, you created a word. So I'm bragging to my children that you can tell your friends that, what has your daddy ever done? My daddy invented a word. I'm just being facetious, but actually I did say that this morning to them just to maybe they would think I was cool instead of a dorky dad, who's just trying to keep his hair at this point, So anyway, it's been a great, fun journey. And for me, it's all about helping people be the best version of themselves that they could possibly become. And that's what makes me tick as an individual. The more people I can help accomplish more with their life, the better.
Yeah. And what you're saying, it's like, it rings true with a lot of other guests that we've had on too, where it's like, all these principles are timeless. Like they're not. It's not like they're necessarily new ideas. It's just you've assembled them. These things aren't going to change. They're going to work for everybody in any field they're working in, which is cool. I think. I don't know. Yeah.
It's wild. I mean, I find myself, whether I'm at a Whole Foods or now I'm working with a company called the Madeline, which is a French bakery. National brand.
Great, every time I'm in Dallas, Lacey wants to go.
They're big out of Dallas. That's right. So I mean, a lot of really cool companies and big real estate companies, and it's just really fun to see something that can work because it's principle based. It can work in any corporation's process and platform, and then I just help them translate it into their own culture, and it's cool. I mean, I'm enjoying myself for sure, and it's been very rewarding personally for me to just be able to help people.
Related to you're helping with the corporations, if you had like 3 quick points you could throw out there that you find are good stepping stones to aim for in terms of working with a team and managing people.
Yeah, absolutely. Typically what I find is every corporation, every team has places of dysfunction in the sense that people they're all for themselves a lot of times. They're competing against each other, and really it's instead of an all for one, it's an all for me type of mentality. And when they run into obstacles or they run into interpersonal problems, they tend to shut down. And realistically, one of the biggest traps is that people attach their happiness and they attach their ability to be positive to accomplishing different things, different levels of success, different levels of accomplishment. And they feel like if I can accomplish this goal, then I'll be happy. And so one of the things that I really try, and the reality is it's just not true, because if you're in sales, guess what? Every 30 days it starts over. And so you're happy for about 32 seconds. And then, hey, month ticks over, start again. And the quota's new again. And corporations have a lot of times they adjust things and you reach a certain level and then it adjusts, and what you thought was going to make you happy doesn't. And so for me, I spend a lot of time really developing a base belief system so that in every single company that I'm working in, I'm teaching them how to create a base belief that is healthy, that's positive, that they learn how to be happy based on just just an internal sense of gratefulness around them. They're grateful for their opportunity. They're grateful for their employer. They're grateful for the team members. They begin to see the good in people as opposed to, we could just be so negative.
Yeah.
And there's so much science behind how negativity will actually decrease your productivity, negativity, and stress and anxiety and all these different things that happen inside of a corporate environment. Red tape, bureaucracy, just all the backbiting and the toxicity. So, if I could just really pinpoint some of the main things that I do initially to help teams win is I try to help everyone on the team rid themselves of negativity, rid themselves of the pessimist type mentality, rid themselves of any type of toxic thought or toxic self-talk or whatever, and really move into a place where they choose to create belief systems that lead them toward their objectives. And they specifically learn how to be grateful for where they are currently and just for the opportunity they have. And golly, we live in such an entitled environment where people, doesn't matter, they just want to complain about everything and they feel so entitled. And we can move people away from an entitlement mentality into a gratefulness mentality. What happens is they begin to operate out of an internal place of actually being truly happy because they're so focused on the things that they're actually really grateful for. One of the very interesting scientific phenomenons is they've proven that what you focus on is what you feel. So if you focus on all the negative and you focus on all the problems, you focus on the obstacles, you actually feel those in a much more intense way. And I don't know if you've ever ridden a motorcycle. I learned the hard way, the physics of riding a motorcycle, that whatever you look at is where you go. And if you want to make a turn, you look all the way around the corner and the bike goes where you're looking. Wherever you're focusing, that's where the motorcycle goes. Well, you focus on the wrong thing and you run into stuff. And you can learn the hard way real quick on a motorcycle that whatever you focus on is where you actually end up going. And so same deal. If you're focusing on the problems and your mentality is based in this place of pessimism or toxicity because of how you've been treated, and we can just become so jaded in life, right? I mean, when we were young and we had this, we were so opportunistic and we were so positive, and then we realized that, man, life can suck and people betray us and they stab us in the back and they make promises they don't deliver, and we can get so jaded. And so, for me, returning people to a place of true, healthy internal happiness, gratitude, focusing specifically on the skill set, the science of positivity. It's not just some, Gary, whatever it is, you're good enough, you're smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like you. It's not these. It's actual Harvard-based science now. Yeah. Was it Stuart Smalley? What was the?
I just know it's the Al Franken character from SNL. I forget something.
There
Smalley.
You go. Yeah. I can't remember what his name was, but now it's 20 years of Harvard science, studying the skill and the science of positivity, studying the science of happiness. There's incredible things that if you can learn scientifically a skill set of how to, in the midst of trouble, and because when it comes down to it, every moment in life has both negative realities and positive realities. Yeah. They're both true. You made a whole lot of money this year, and that's awesome. Yahoo! And then crap, now I owe way more taxes. I just bumped into a new tax bracket, right? So do you focus on the negative of the tax bracket? Or you focus on the positive? Wow, I'm doing really well and succeeding and prospering. Let me take a positive outlook at this and call my CPA and get a strategy based. So again, if you're focusing on the positive, then you tend to move toward a positive solution. If you focus on the negative, you move toward the negative and you end up rear-ending stuff and running into more and more problems. So if I could say anything about it, the number one thing is creating a culture of teamwork, a culture of unity, a culture of positivity. A culture, where people are grateful instead of entitled. And what I found is that the more happy and healthy you can get employees, the better they perform. Yeah. The happier and healthier employees are, the better the results are, and the revenues go up. People that it's interesting. People want to work with people that are enjoyable to work with. Yeah. So you get more sales and your team performs better, because they're actually enjoying what they do, because they're instead of bickering and fighting and being toxic with each other and stealing the energy and the from each other in that way, you create a synergistic internal health inside of an organization. I literally, the way I look at it is every individual in an organization, every individual is a cell, and every department is an organ. And so the cells and the organs come together to work to make up this organism or this organization, right, that we would call a corporation. So if I can get the cells healthy, and healthy, happy, thriving, positive, focused, driven, whatever, if I can get the cells healthy, then I can get the departments healthy. If I get the departments healthy, then the organism will become healthy. That's kind of the mindset that I take to it. And so it's companies that really want to invest in their people, that realize that their people are their number one greatest asset. And if they can really invest in their people, then their whole process will improve, and their productivity will improve, and their revenues will improve. And that's kind of the gist. I know that was a long roundabout answer to get there. And you may want to edit the heck out of that. I don't know. But,
well, my office is giving out flu shots this year, so.
Hey, that's something to be grateful for.
There you go.
You know, the government and pretty sure there's some kind of conspiracy connects all the way back to JFK, but that's for another show.
Now that all the documents have been released, but they haven't really been released. It's funny when you're talking about being.
Hey, Jordan, for the record, my book has nothing. It was actually published before Donald Trump ran for office. So the winning thing, that's me. Donald got that. Donald got that for me. And no, it has nothing to do with Charlie Sheen. That's the number 2 question. Those are my two most answered questions.
Winning. Yeah. I remember when that came out, there was like all these, what do you call it? Like remixes. People were making songs about it. That was classic. I was thinking of like, you're talking about being grateful, and it's something that's come up recently in a couple of books that I've read and podcasts that I listen to. Also the idea, and I don't know how this fits into your book, but it feels like it's kind of in the same world. The idea of ownership and not blaming others for where you're at. Like that's like, I was listening to Jocko Willink. He talked about that. He has a book about that. Our friend Jason Jaggard, who was on, and even reading, I was reading, I know you've probably read this before. It seems like everybody has, but I just read it. The 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. There's a whole chapter on that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like, that's like such a huge thing that I feel like this generation is missing out on, is like owning where they're at, and not blaming people.
It is. It's one of the things that I get hired a lot to help with, is how to break people out of the hourly mentality, the hourly employee mentality, and help them move into a place where they take pride in what they do. They take ownership of what they do. They act like the company is theirs, and they treat the company, they treat the job like this is way more than just a 9 to 5. This is way more than just $15 an hour. Or 20, whatever it is. It's way more than that. They take pride in it, and they take pride in really taking ownership in the future of the company, and taking ownership in the goals. So a lot of it is creating good communication too, between managers and team members, or owners and department heads, and so that the individuals, the cells inside of the organization, can really feel like they're a part of the big picture, as opposed to just punching a clock and doing a menial task. Right. So that ownership thing is huge, and it's what happens is when people act like they take pride in it, and they act like an owner as opposed to an hourly hireling, they get noticed. The results are better. And next thing you know, they're getting promoted, and they're moving into places where they have more and more oversight and more ownership, with it. So it is contagious.
Yeah, that's great. John had one question here that he typed in as we were doing this interview. He says, "I gotta go. Ask him about black belts." He's like, "I think the barbed wire thing is real." He's talking about, I don't know if this is true, but this is a karate-related question.
The belts in Taekwondo and karate, I think.
Yeah, he's asking if there are different levels, and if they're made of different materials, because he heard that the last level is made of barbed wire.
No. Now, interestingly enough, originally, in the style, like the combat style of Taekwondo I trained in, was a military art, right? So Taekwondo, the original Taekwondo, not the Olympic sport style, which is basically, kicking and hugging.
Yeah.
They kick and then they hug each other, and then they break up, and then they kick and then they hug. They get back together, they hug again. It's not that. Ours is more of a military combat style. It's a lot more like kickboxing or whatever, where you're fighting, real fighting.
Yeah.
And for the original Taekwondo was 9 different kwans or styles that encompassed all different types of fighting, from grappling and takedowns and joint locks and pressure points and manipulations and all that stuff, soft and hard styles, and mix them all together. Well, it was all a military system. So all of the ranks, all of the belts were actually military ranks inside of the Korean, what they called the ROK Marines, the Republic Army of Korea. And so you have a very interesting, phenomenon that initially all the belts were white, and the longer someone trained, the darker their belt got, because you didn't wash your belt. You washed your uniform. You didn't wash your belt. So your belt would get, from sweat and blood and whatever, it would get darker and darker and darker. And you would look at somebody and they would have, their belt would be so dark, and it was because of the experience. That's an interesting, phenomenon, the whole original. So the belts weren't made of barbed wire or razor glass or, anything like that. But there was something connected to, to the idea of the longer someone trained, the darker their belt got. And so the darker the belt, the more experience, and so, if you got people that have, citrus belts, any citrus colored belt is not very experienced, right? But the more you get into,
that's because they
blacks
feed
and blues
themselves a lot, right?
There you go. Yeah. The blacks and blues and purples and browns and, all that, the darker it gets, the more experience they have. So definitely a lot of fun.
This is not like the belts with a lot of cheap corner dojos where you get the next belt if your check clears at the end of the month, right? It's just like you had to earn that color.
Yeah, the industry has changed. $3,000 and you'll get your black belt, buddy. And it doesn't matter if you can't fight your way out of a wet paper sack. It's a different world now. So ours was pretty hardcore. We trained pretty hard style, and I'm glad that was the style that I trained in, as opposed to some of the mamsy-pamsy stuff that's out there now. It's a little embarrassing. All black belts are not created equal. That is for certain.
Have you ever had to use it in real life?
Oh my goodness! Yeah. I grew up in Oklahoma, man. There's nothing to do but fight and tip cows, and we. And again, being a smaller, I was a preppy in a redneck town, and so everyone, there was constantly a drunk redneck that wanted to try the little preppy guy on for size, and I became a local legend in my high school when I got into a full out brawl in Taco Bell. I literally to this day am not allowed in Taco Bell in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. I was banned for life. We ripped, every chair was broken, blood, tacos everywhere. It was amazing.
It was a legend.
It was a legendary night.
Sounds like
a brawl in Taco Bell.
That sounds like
it's intense, man. When you because the chairs are all wooden and they swivel in.
Yeah.
They're like the little swivel wooden chairs. We literally, it was a rough little fight there, buddy. And every chair in the whole restaurant was broken all the way down one whole side of the restaurant. It was, tacos were flying, man. I frisbeed a taco right in this guy's face. It was beautiful. I just wish I'd had it on camera.
Was it a soft shell or a hard shell?
It was hard shell, man. It was hard shell. And,
see, that'll get him angry.
he squirted hot sauce on me and said something about my mama, and I frisbeed a taco in his face, and we were off to the races, man. It was a full-blown brawl.
It seems like what you're describing is like a cut scene from Napoleon Dynamite. That's what
it should have been.
Like.
The two things you don't do in Oklahoma.
It was Rex Kwando. It was the wisdom of a man and the reflexes of a puma.
Oh, man.
So two things you don't do in Oklahoma is combine insults of mothers and hot sauce and kicking sisters.
That's never a good idea. That's never a good idea. Yeah. So I did. I've been in quite a few fights, and it's just growing up training in the martial arts, and when you fight for a hobby, you fight for fun every day. Yeah. And then you're kind of itching to give it a whirl. And if someone smarts off to you, or says something about your mama, you're like, well, I guess you want to fight then, and so it's like, this is what I do for fun, so I would never back down from it. I never picked a fight or abused it or anything like that, but I certainly wouldn't. Being a smaller guy, I would never back down from a bully. I have this major thing with bullies to the tune where I have this, growing up as a smaller guy, if someone touches my hair, like, the whole bully thing of, hey, little kid, when they ruffle up your hair. To this day, if somebody touches my hair, I swear to God, I'll lose it. I mean, it's just, I have a deep psychological wound against bullies. And so I hit a lot of people that apparently didn't actually want to fight. They just wanted to act like they wanted to fight. And, but, I learned early on, there was a police statistic that, whoever gets hit first loses 99% of the time in the police statistics of fighting. And so I'm like, that will never be me. I will never be the guy that gets hit first, because that puts me in a bad statistical position. So I just decided to hit first and ask questions later. And it's like
he said, you got to lean in. You got to lean into that.
You got to lean in.
Yeah. You just got to go in and take care of business.
That's a good tie back after that tangent. Like that was the perfect
That's what I'm good for. I'm good for bringing things back around.
Yeah. I don't know if this segment will be good for my business. People know how much of a loose cannon I used to be. I'm much more responsible now. I mean, it's been at least 6 months since I've been in a physical altercation. I'm just kidding. It's actually been 17 years, and it was on the Strip of Las Vegas, and I was terrified my mom was going to see me on Cops or something, so I ran and hid in the MGM, and I escaped. I escaped with my dignity.
In Vegas. You put the words dignity and Las Vegas in the same sentence. I didn't know that.
Always a good decision. Yes.
If people want to find out more about you and WINology, where can they go?
WINology.com. WINology.com is the easiest way to find me. And lots of good fun stuff on there.
Yeah. You got the Facebook, the Twitters, the Instas?
I do. I've got WINology on Facebook, also WINology 101 on Twitter. And then you can find me by my name as well. I do every week I do inspirational videos, just cool, fun, free, inspirational stuff every week. So if anybody wants to follow on WINology.com or follow there, it's all the stuff. It feeds onto there from Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all that kind of stuff for sure.
Right, cool. Well, thank you so much, Joel, for coming on. We'll have to have you on again when we want to talk more about this.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, this part of the show is brought to you by Phoenix Shaving. If you like to shave and you are a man or a woman, I mean, some women are hairy. That's all right. That's okay. No judgment. But if you're a guy that likes to shave and appreciates the finer things in life, go to gentlemanscofflaw.com/shave. That link helps support the show, and you could check out some of Douglas Smythe's amazing shaving soaps, aftershave colognes. You'll be blown away at all the stuff he has. Scents for days. He is like the Walter White of artisan soap making. He's got this lab basically there in Phoenix, Arizona, where he creates his soaps and he cures them. It's an independent business. You're not giving your money to all those guys that are ripping everybody off with razors. Right now, you can get some wet shaving starter packs. So it has everything you need to get started wet shaving. You can get sets that have the safety razor, the brush, the soap, the aftershave, tons of great scents to pick from. I've mentioned before, one of my favorites is Tombstone. Also, they have Sundown, which is like a classic barbershop scent. They've got Cavendish, which smells like pipe tobacco, which is amazing. I tell you, I've been using the stuff and I don't get any razor burn or razor bumps anymore. This stuff is amazing, especially the aftershave. It just removes all irritation, bumps, redness. It's like I've never looked so dapper in my life, and that's thanks to Phoenix Shaving. So go to gentlemanscofflaw.com/shave and stop being a slave to the cartridge razor shave. All right, Great guest. The Joel Scribner.
Sorry,
I liked him a lot.
The face that John was making was horrendous, and I thought, like, did he not like him? But he was just yawning.
That was a yawn.
Yeah, that we're gonna have to have him back on because he's just a winning type of guy.
Hashtag winning.
Yeah. Like Charlie Sheen. Let's. You know what time it is, guys? It's time to announce the winner of the giveaway.
Duncan McAnnis.
You didn't even wait for. Oh, wait, let's do that again. Okay, let's do a. All right, drum roll. And the winner is Duncan Duncan-amus. I read it as Duncan McManus, which I think would be a good name.
Duncan McManus.
Duncan-amus.
My name is Duncan McManus.
You're getting this. What is it? Sangre. What do we call it?
Sangre, the blood of the dragon.
Yeah.
You put it on your face
You're
and you go down to the lock.
The Drago, right here. So
you go down to the lock and you find the water dragon.
Oh gosh.
You find that water dragon.
Named
That's a terrible movie. Yeah. Yes. So you're the winner of the Sangre
you're saying,
Drago.
are you referencing water horse?
Water horse?
Was
I
it
was
water
talking
horse?
about Loch Ness Monster.
I thought you were talking about the last dragon.
Was. Oh.
I never saw that. Never heard of it. Don't know it.
I am the last one.
Oh, Dragonheart.
Yeah. Was it Dragonheart or the last dragon?
No, Sean Connery does the voice, and Dennis Quaid plays a British guy for the only time ever in his life.
Yeah.
Not a good move, Dennis.
Not a good move. And guys, if you want to support the show, John, how can they support the show? How can our listeners support the show? There are a couple ways, right?
Once we get that Scofflaw lathe, we'll be able to crank out some of those bowls in the meantime,
if that actually happens, I would pay you to get our mascot like a skeleton, like working at the lathe.
Oh,
That'd be great.
In the meantime, we've got T-shirts and belt buckles and little coffres where you could put your wallet and keys. And I still like those glasses, the water glasses,
the pint glasses.
That's it. Yeah,
way to sell it.
Water glasses.
Get a gentleman scofflaw water glass. No, we got pint glasses. We got T-shirts. We got little punk pins.
Water bottles.
No, we don't have water bottles and belt buckles. Stop the false advertising.
We do have water bottles out there that just are water bottles that have had a gentleman scofflaw sticker added to them.
And you know what I got is I got one of those 5-inch bumper magnets for my car. I'm driving around promoting the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast. It's great because people could be in traffic. They might be behind me and they see the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast and they pull their phone out and they go, I want to listen to see what this is all about.
Say, the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast, and it's a magnet, and then they get out and they just grab it.
Take it. That's
because it's such a good-looking magnet.
Yeah, I know.
It was asking for
it. Might happen. But you know what? Maybe I pay it forward, right? Maybe it doesn't matter that they
I don't know.
Also, you can join us on Patreon if you want to support the show. That's a good way to get a couple little extras. We post outtakes. We post extended, segments that that didn't make the final cut on the normal podcast feed, and we are about to do some monthly live hangouts.
Yeah.
And when we reach our goal, we're going to do a monthly Scofflaw movie review podcast. So,
I mean, you heard us try to review Stranger Things.
You did.
And that went pretty well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
What can we say?
But yeah, you'll get 3 actual filmmakers reviewing other movies. But I think it probably won't be all current stuff. It'll probably be like we'll pick a canon of stuff that goes in that fits the Rebel and the Renaissance
some
Man.
Mel Gibson movies, some Abigail Breslin movies,
Casper,
the Friendly Ghost.
Gosh. All right,
was Mel in that?
No.
He was.
Was he?
I seem to remember he produced it. I just didn't know whether he was in it or not.
I didn't know he produced it, but he was in it for one shot.
That's wild, man.
Oh, in the mirror? Was it a mirror thing?
Yeah, he's Clint Eastwood, and then Bill Pullman turns into Rodney Dangerfield, and then I think the Tales from the Crypt guy, Mel's in there.
We also got some interesting things coming down the pike for the holidays. Maybe a Christmas special. Maybe some returning guests. Maybe favorite guests throughout the year. Maybe a live stream. I don't know. I'm throwing it out there. But
and we'll have Jimmy Hawkins.
I thought you were going to say Jimmy Hoffa.
Perhaps we'll have Jimmy Hawkins. We're working on it. We'll see. John, you're right, gentleman in the scofflaw, my friend.
I try.
Donovan, you are a gentleman in the scofflaw, my friend.
I feel like that was so insincere. You too.
It was insincere,
you too, buddy.
I didn't believe
You didn't even
it.
call me by my real name.
I said Jonovan again.
Whatever.
Right.
You and Fabio.
You guys have a great week.
This has been the Gentleman's Scofflaw Podcast. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcatcher. Visit us on the interwebs at gentlemanscofflaw.com.
Captain says his ice on the river. We ain't getting home if we don't break through. So damn cold, I can't help but shiver. Rise and shine, we got work to do. Hey!